This is the 20th episode of Getting Caught Up. And in a way, I'm going right back to the beginning. My guest for this episode is the first guest I ever had on the podcast, a very funny and smart guy, a guy I've been friends with for nearly 25 years, Adam Wade. Adam is an award winning storyteller, has won the Moth Slam 20 times. He's the author of the Audible original book, You Ought to Know Adam Wade. And he just released a comedy special on YouTube called Adam Wade's Small Town Lover. So we talked all about that and took a look at a clip from it. You got to check out the full thing. It's really, really great stuff from Adam. Adam's also working on a play called Miss New Hampshire, which is a new medium for him. And we took a look at some of the art that he's got going and heard about some of the inside story on what's next for that. He's a really busy guy. He's also hosting a monthly show at the theater under St. Mark's called Adam Wade Live in NYC. So it was great that he took some time to talk about all of this and much more with me. We actually started off the conversation talking about a couple of stories he helped me write a long time ago, including one about a run-in with a woman who claimed to be actress Helena Bonham Carter. Some people may remember hearing about that story. Quick reminder, please give this episode a like or a comment so I can keep bringing you interviews with interesting people like Adam. So let's get right to it. Here he is, the one and only Adam Wade.
Yes.
All right. All right, Adam Wade. Great to have you.
Great to be back. Great to be back.
So you're the first guest on this podcast, right? Almost 4 years ago now. And
wow, really?
Yeah, can you believe that? That was right height of the pandemic, Adam. Height of the pandemic when I started I was kind of dabbling with this, but now I'm kind of doing it. So it was great to have you on then. And now I figured I'm coming up. This is episode number 20. And I was like, who better to have than Adam Wade, the first guest. Now the set back for a second time on the 20th episode. So it's always great to see you. We've been talking a little bit before we started recording. But it just makes me feel good to see you, Adam. It really does.
Yeah, great to see you too. I mean, always just a lot of history in our friendship. So yeah. I was thinking the other day, just to start, was and we might have mentioned this the last time, but living in Hoboken and going to this coffee shop, like in, Hudson Tea Building.
In the tea building. It was called Ganache, right?
Ganache, yeah. I mean, that got me through a tough time. You know what I mean? It was just, at least 3 to 4 days, at least 3 to 4 days a week, we'd go there. I remember I was eating a donut every day.
I was drinking a lot of iced tea and and that place was good. But I'll tell you what, going there too, I don't know if you remember this, but you helped me with a story that I ended up getting published in.
Was it the bus on the bus?
Actually, it was two stories that you helped me with, Adam. One was the bus justice is what we ended up calling it. And what was the other one? So it was for the New York Press, which is now defunct. It's out of print. But it was New York Press at the time, and I think that was 8 million stories. They had a column called 8 million stories. Remember that? Which I think you had a couple of your stories published in there, and then you helped me get that into shape to pitch it, and then they picked it up. And then the other one was, I can't remember what I called it, but remember the one about Helena Bonham Carter, the Helena Bonham Carter story? Do you remember that?
I don't.
You helped me with it a lot. Okay, let me refresh the details. So it was me, and you remember Dave Gellis, obviously.
Yes.
It was Gellis and I were out for an evening, and this is back shortly after we were pages, right? Like we were both not pages at that point. We had gone to this bar down in Union Square called the Underbar. It was like an underground bar. All right. We run into these people. We start talking, and one of them claims to be Helena Bonham Carter, actress Helena Bonham Carter, right? You know who she is?
Yeah.
Okay, so at the time I knew the name, but I did not know the face, right? So sure. I knew she was British, right? And so this woman was talking with a British accent. So I had no reason to really question, right, that it was Helena Bonham Carter. So we go on. They're also ordering up like champagne, like the most expensive champagne in the place. And they're, just buying us champagne and whatnot. So everything seemed like this is a celebrity, right? So they started asking us what, what we do. And we're like, oh, we work at NBC. And they're like, oh, really? And at the time, Adam, I was done with the page program, but I was working as an assistant to the business affairs lawyer, right? Sorry,
Okay, yeah, I remember. Yeah, I
we're going
remember.
way
Yeah,
off topic for the
yeah.
podcast, but now
You
that
were
I'm
in
going,
that office. I remember.
I
Yeah,
was in
yeah,
that
yeah.
office, right? Okay. But I was still doing the 8H key job, right? Because my page ended in the middle of that. And so they just wanted continuity. They just let me finish out the season, even though I wasn't a page,
I
right?
love when they would do that.
Which
Yeah.
meant I could get anybody in who, I could get tickets very easily to Saturday Night Live, right? So uh, I mentioned that as part of part of the thing that I do there. And they're like, "Oh, this is a Friday night. We're out." They're like, "Oh, so we could go to Saturday Night Live tomorrow." I was like, "Yeah, I get you tickets to tomorrow's show." And they're like, "Can you do it?" And I was like, "Sure." I was like, "I'll get you tickets. Like give me your number." We exchange phone numbers. Anyway, the night goes on. It's great. We had a nice time with Helena Bonham Carter and her friends. And then so the next day, Josh Payne, obviously, I give Josh Payne a call at Saturday Night Live, and I was like, "Hey, Josh, I ended up in a bar last night talking to Helen and Bonham Carter, and she wants to come to the show." And Josh was like, "Huh? Usually celebrity uh, requests come through Marcy Klein's office." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I don't know. We just ran into him in a bar." I'm like, "I'm just telling you, they want to come." I'm like, "If you could get them tickets, let me know. They want me to come." He's like, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, "I got it. They got it. How many tickets?" I'm like, "4." He's like, "They're there." She calls Helena Bonham Carter calls me later in the day. She's like, "Just wanted to check in with you." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, tickets are there. Just go show up, and they'll be there waiting for you. You and your friends, you're all set." So I didn't think another thing about it, right? Actually, you know what? As I'm telling this story, Adam, I wasn't the key anymore. I think this is the following fall, but I was
Okay.
like still talking to Josh a lot and was able to
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
work it. Otherwise, I would have worked it. I get a call from Josh on Sunday. He's like, "Hey, I got to tell you something." I was like, "What?" He's like, "We had a big problem here with the whole Helena Bonham Carter thing." I'm like, "A problem? What happened?" He's like, "It wasn't Helena Bonham Carter." I'm like, "Are you kidding?" He's like, "No." He's like, "They were total imposters." He's like, "We had to have security drag them out of the building, all this stuff." Do you remember this?
I don't even remember that. Oh my
Okay, so this
God.
is nuts, right? So I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Josh." Like, the last thing you want to do at that
Oh
point is
yeah.
like
Yes. Yes.
threaten
Yeah.
your chance to get tickets. Like, it's that easy to get somebody tickets, right? And I'm like, "Oh God." I just felt horrible. I felt bad for Josh, like putting him in a weird position. He like was so cool about it. And he assured me, he's like, it was actually pretty funny watching him get dragged out by security. So obviously I had the number. I was like, I gotta figure out what happened here. So I call up and I was like, "Oh, hello, Helena." I'm like, "How was the show last night?" And she gets all like flustered on the phone. And I'm like, "I heard what happened." I'm like, "I know you're not Helena Bonham Carter." And she was like very apologetic about the whole thing and whatnot. But and I told Dave Gellis about it. We were like shocked because like neither of us knew who she was, but it was convincing enough, Adam.
Damn.
So I
Damn.
wrote that up for a story for New York Press, which you helped me with. I can't believe you don't remember.
Oh Jesus.
They
It
published that
sounds
one.
familiar. It sounds
Yeah,
familiar.
they published that one too. But anyway, you're talking about that place. That's where we did all that.
Yep.
And you were obviously so helpful doing, storytelling and
Well, it
everything.
was like giving each other pep talks too, just during that time. I mean, if you're working in TV or you're working in any entertainment and there's downtime. I mean, unless you get hooked on a show
Yeah.
that's on forever or whatever, and sometimes that's not the best thing either. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, definitely ups and downs with that, and just being able to have a friend to meet every day and just kind of talk and kind of assure yourself, yeah, no, we've been through this before. We're probably going to be through this again, and let's just kind of.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, it
DeLuca
was
was there
good.
every once in a while. Chris DeLuca was there every once in a
DeLuca
while.
was there as well. Yeah,
He's another one. They just keep bouncing back. You know what I mean?
there was a lot of NBC ties there.
Yeah.
But it was good. But listen, and I want to talk to you about so much stuff here, Adam. The you were obviously writing a lot then, and I know you're writing a lot now. And the biggest thing I wanted to talk about, you announced it on Twitter. You told me about it ahead of time, but you've got this play coming out called Miss New
Yes.
Hampshire. So I
Mr. New
got to
Hampshire.
know. I actually haven't talked to you a whole lot about it, just a little bit on text. But I was like, I kind of want to just wait and chat with you about it on the podcast. So, what's
Yeah.
the deal? This is sort of a new thing for you, huh?
Yeah, for the past probably about a year, I've been working on a two-act play, much in the vein of like the Neil Simon Eugene trilogy, Biloxi Blues, and those are like Brain Beach memoirs, like that type of thing. So I've just been working on that about growing up in New Hampshire, working at like a diner, and it's somewhat true, and it's somewhat it's not it's based we could say based on a true story, but I've just been working on that nonstop, and we'll be doing a reading on Zoom in January, and then my hope is this fall we'll do a live reading. Either probably at the Magnet Theater or the theater under St. Mark's, but there's about 10 characters, so I think the Zoom one will be good to do in January just to tighten some things up. But I'm really proud of it. I mean, a lot of it is based on the success of my Audible original "You Ought to Know Adam Wade." So
Yeah.
it's part of it has an influence of that. So yeah, I'm just excited. My thing with that, Andrew, is working on it, and I'm finding now. I mean, just as an artist, as a storyteller, as a writer. I mean, if you can add playwright, you're doing these things. You're putting these things out into the world. Is everybody going to love them? I don't know, but I've really enjoyed the process. The few people that have read it so far have given me strong feedback, but they're like, this has great potential. So, uh, it's from your heart. And when you put something out there, if it can connect to others, then I feel like I'm doing what I need to be doing.
Yeah. Well, it sounds awesome. Now, when you do the Zoom reading, are you going to be reading
No, no, not on this one. I
really?
have people. Yeah, yeah. I just want to watch it. I want to. Yeah, it's almost. Lauren Michaels, behind in the control room, I really do see it as like a control room and just
Yeah.
see how it is. I really, even now, the narrator is a younger person. It would be, not too young, but I mean, be like a high school, you could cast a 20-year-old person or 25,
Sure.
but I mean, it would be like a high school aged person. Um, it's not me telling the story.
Got it. That's interesting. So that's a little something different for you. But before we get more into that, so it's cast. All the characters are cast for it. Is that what you're telling me?
For the Zoom reading, for the
Yeah.
Zoom reading, for the
Okay.
Zoom reading.
So
Yeah,
it could
yeah.
change at a subsequent reading later
Oh,
on.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, actually, there's right now I have like the Adam type character, Act One, because I mean he has a lot of lines and a lot of dialogue, and monologue. So I mean, I have specifically two people doing him
Okay.
each act. So
Is
yeah,
that right?
and they're a little bit different too. So you get to kind of see.
Now, how did
You
you
know,
go about casting this? Did you hold auditions or?
No, I mean, I just kind of, I really, the good thing is like working at a school like the Magna Theaters is a lot of improvisers. Not that this is going to be improvised, but there's a lot of improvisers. There's a lot of actors that have come through, and there's also just a lot of characters, just like interesting people. And when I was writing it, I had things, exercises that make it feel fun for me, and you want to actually enjoy this process. So when you're like, who could play this, and do like
Yeah.
a list of people that and then I went for the number ones, and I think I got all the number ones that I wanted. Just for at least for this reading. And there's still like even today, I mean, there's the main feedback I got from a couple people like I'm still, you know, chipping away at certain things.
So what's that? That was your that looked like a legal pad there.
Yeah, all legal
Are
pads
you
for
do
me.
you write on do you actually handwrite the scripts for these?
I do a lot of writing on legal pads now, and then I use like Final Draft, and I use like the
Ah,
playwriting part. Yeah.
okay.
So
Got it.
there's a main thing, but then like I might print up a couple pages, and then I just have like this. I'm really working on some like major ideas of these two characters, and then like I'm just kind of going back and forth, and then once I kind of revise it, then I'll
Yeah.
put it into the script. Yeah.
It's great. So are people going to be able to watch this Zoom
No,
meeting?
no, not
No,
yet, not
not
yet.
open to the public.
The live reading will be open to the public. So it's
Yeah,
either in March or April. We got to work on dates. Um,
March or April for the live reading.
yep.
That's awesome. So that's not
And
that far
you
away.
gotta give yourself dates. Even that, I gotta send an email to someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the other thing is, Adam, you did send me you sent me the artwork for it, which I thought was very cool. Um,
Yeah, and I would definitely send you probably after this draft. I'd probably send. I mean, if you'd be interested, I definitely would send it to you to look at.
oh yeah, I would love to. I
Especially
mean, not
yeah, especially the stories and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, I'd love to see it.
yeah.
I'm intrigued by the whole thing, you know. Uh,
Yeah, and it's weird because studying, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like I don't know much about theater. Oh, I don't. Like, I mean, we
yeah,
went, I think we went to Kiss Me Kate
yeah, I remember
when
that.
we were pages, and Young Frankenstein, and then I've seen like a couple, one person plays. I just haven't really gone. So um, but I've always read plays. And like Lone Star and True West and stuff like that. Like these books you could get like on like Amazon and stuff, but it's like the Cambridge Guide to American Theater, and it's almost like a alphabetically like a encyclopedia. I'm sure you could just do this on the computer, like
Yeah.
online, and look up things, but like it just has like everything, like Yiddish theater, like the
Hmm.
Brit, like and all like and just like a lot of people. And I just really I like this summer I was just reading this stuff and I just got really into it and uh,
So what were you doing? Sort of just immersing yourself in like
yeah,
some of the
yeah.
theater conventions and whatnot? Yeah.
Yes, theater conventions, and then it's not experimental, uh, but I think like even like in storytelling and writing, you can study things, and then like you got to just make it your own. You got to
Yeah.
just do it, and so I enjoyed that process, and then I just started like writing this thing and building these characters, and like I know just like with the process where it's you know the first couple of drafts of anything, talk about the Helen Bonham Carter story, talk about the bus driver story, like the bus rider story. I mean, they're never really good when you first write it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you need to get it out and a little bit, somewhat, whether it's the guy at the coffee shop, your friend from the page program, get it out there in the world just to see, throw it out there, and then it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
It can only get better. And
Yeah.
so like this, and I've kept all the folders on the computer of all the drafts. And sometimes when I'm getting frustrated, I'll look back at like one of the first drafts. I'm like, oh my God, this is so bad. So it's like there's been progress.
Yeah.
There's been some type of progress.
That's good that you do that and can see it. I worked with Tina Brown a lot for a while, and Tina had a name for that, and she called it a vomit draft. Like you just need
Yep,
to like vomit everything onto the page,
absolutely.
and it's gonna look like a mess at the start, like somebody just vomited, and then that's where the editing begins, and which I think you helped me grasp a lot of that too.
You got to get it out. It's so
Yeah,
important. Yeah, the Duplass brothers, the filmmakers, say the same thing with writing. It's that you got to get that vomit draft out, and it's okay for it to be bad. Like even in my teaching, like I mean, I tell my students like the first time you tell it, most likely it's going to be awful. You know what I mean? And it's okay. It's like okay, like
yeah,
you almost like want to like embrace that.
yeah. So I want to show real quick here, Adam. I
Okay.
pulled up are you
Yeah.
so there it is. That's the cover. That's like the cover art. Is that fair to say?
It could be potentially yeah, yeah.
Is it all right to show that? I didn't ask
Yeah.
clear that with you early.
Yeah, no clearances. I mean,
Uh,
it's like a mock. It's a mock write-up. I mean, I don't want the Boulevard of Broken Dreams artwork people to be, it's an idea that I love Hopper, and then I love which is the original, which is Nighthawks, and then I love that version, which is the Boulevard of Broken Dreams. That used to be at Spencer Gifts at the mall and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Uh, but
Uh,
there's very much an Elvis. I mean, I've been fascinated with Elvis, Marilyn Monroe, and James Dean since I was little, and like there's a lot of that in there, like just essence of
Interesting.
like
So that
icons.
So that's really interesting. In fact, in the in what we're going to talk about next, I mean, James Dean figures into that story. So let's move along then, I guess. Anything else you want to say about the play? Because
No, that's good. Yeah, yeah. So stay tuned. No, I'll leave it on that. Stay tuned.
yes, all right. Because I'm excited for that, and obviously, if you want to, show me the script before, I'm happy to look at it.
Yeah.
But also, I don't feel like, you know,
No, no, I definitely would. To have eyes on it, but also, and I tell people this all the time. I think it's good to put this on the podcast. It's like when you're working on something that's really important to you, and you want to put it out in the world and share it to people. Don't put it on social media just yet. And don't put it like, especially if it's real, like if it's a script or something. Share it with people that know you, that will give you some strong feedback, that are going to break you down. Like I know you're not going to break me, you're not going to make me cry, Andrew, but you'll say like, I just didn't understand this. What does this mean? And I know where it's coming from. It's coming from a good, nurturing place. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So I think that's, and you're definitely someone I would send something to.
yeah. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
All right,
Um,
good.
and so talking about James Dean, he figured into this story that you recently told.
Oh
But
yeah.
actually, I guess it's part of your live. It's a live special. It's called Adam
Yeah,
Wade's
yeah.
Small Town Lover,
Yeah, damn right.
which you recorded, I guess, in the fall, right? Fall of 2023.
Yes, yes.
So this was really good, Adam. I enjoyed it thoroughly, literally from like beginning to end. I thought, I mean, let's
Thanks,
talk about
man.
it. There's a lot to talk about here, but
Yeah, yeah.
starting right with the opening guitar music, which you did, right?
Yep,
The
yeah,
electric guitar. So I
yeah.
love that because it really reminded me of like your early days, at least the early days when I saw you perform, and you used to actually bring a guitar on stage. And I know you dropped doing that, but but I like that was a subtle way of bringing that back, and then also having an electric. I don't know. I'm a big electric guitar fan. I can't escape that. So I really liked it, and it actually set just a perfect tone for the whole performance that was about to come, and then it closes with that too. So uh, fantastic.
Yeah,
Great
thanks,
job.
Andrew.
Bravo
Yeah, I
on that.
appreciate it.
Really, seriously.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, yeah. I worked my butt off on that. So it's called Small Town Lover, and it's on my YouTube page. It's
Yep.
youtube.com/Adam Wade Storyteller. I
Yeah.
think that's all you have to put.
I'll put the link in,
Okay.
in here so
Yeah.
people can find it. Yeah. But so you talked about working your butt off for it. How much preparation went into that show?
Yeah, a lot. The upstate in Beacon, New York, there's a gentleman, Drew, that's been doing this show called the Artichoke Storytelling Show for a few years, and it's a very successful show up there. It sells out all the time,
Hmm.
and he does a great job. And he has cameras up there. He has his own YouTube channel and stuff like that. And I did it last year, and I had such a great time. And he asked me to do it again. I go, of course. And this time going, I'm like, okay, I know he's got a couple cameras. What do I have to do? And I've been talking to, I don't want to get over involved in this discussion with this, but like, I've been talking to two different producers about doing a like comedy special, and neither of them, they're all both awesome guys, and I hope to work with them in the future. It just didn't work out. It's the timing's just not,
Yeah.
and so for me, I wanted to put something out. I wanted to put something out there that looked professional, that might not have been perfectly polished, but polished enough.
It was
But all,
it
yeah.
was pretty well polished, Adam.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, thank
Yeah.
you. And and something like and something I'm like, there's been several comedians that have just put their stuff on their specials directly on YouTube, and I was very inspired by them. I mean, you can look it up. I mean, the comedians that are doing that now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting a lot more hits than me, of course, but like, why it's this DIY thing where it's like if you can't get it almost goes back to like independent movies, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like
Yeah.
if you can't get funding or you have to do it yourself. You have to do it yourself, and you need something to show the world. And for this, utilizing your resources. Like, I know we're going to get really good footage. You're going to get a good crowd. Well, you better bring a good effing story. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I really worked on tightening that and making it so it could be like a 15-minute thing and work. And 15 minutes is enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just I was thinking maybe, and then maybe I could wait next year and do another story. And I'm like, no, like 15 minutes is enough, but do it right and do it the best you can with the budget that you have. And for such a minimal budget to have something that looks like that, and for you to say that it's extremely polished, I really, coming from you, it means a million to me. And yeah, and talking about things that you care about, and this is like first love in college, but also it's also about these two elderly gentlemen that had a profound effect on me in my years in college. So,
Yeah.
you know,
It was nice. And Adam, there's one thing I've noticed about your stories and your storytelling, and that is that, you know, in this case, you got up and told a story, but really there's like multiple stories within that story, which is what I think is so, you've become sort of masterful at that at this point. And I thought that's what was one of the things that was so good about this is just that it was like this, larger story with a few little stories, like woven in and all woven together. And the audience seemed to really dig it. Um, Tell me about tell me about, I guess, how you said you tightened this and everything. How did you do that? Like, did you work this out
Yeah,
with
when
the
it started
audiences?
out, for from 2010 to 2020, I did a show called Adam Wade from New Hampshire show at the Theater under St. Mark's in New York, and it was a monthly show. And I actually started it back up. Now it's called Adam Wade Live in New York City, and I'm so glad to be doing it again. And it's almost like my storytelling gym in the sense, it's this basement theater. It's beautiful. It's about 50 seat theater. The people that run it, Rez, they're like incredible, truly incredible people, and they've been incredible to me and supportive. And to get to do these shows, uh, it's like each month, Andrew, you take three stories, and I'll take a couple videos, and I'll go there, and I literally start the day after the show from each month, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
all right, what are some stories? And now I'm overly organized. At the time, I wasn't so organized, but now it's like I have a folder on my computer with like every story I have, and it's lined up chronologically. And I'm like, what's an old one that I haven't done in a long time? Let's take that one, put that one on the list. What's one that's like so that it still needs a little work, kind of needs a little kind of push a little forward. I'll put that on there. And then there's one that like just seriously, it's a brand new one. But it's like in that vomit draft stage, and I need to
yeah,
start working on it. So then I have a month, and it's like a fun thing for me where every couple of days for like a half hour, 20 minutes, I'll go to those and just kind of elaborate, and then like it goes from like one sheet of paper to like this, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And by the time the show's ready, I got a couple of videos that go with it. I have like a little video archive of like short videos to put in between, almost like commercials or and then from there, like as each month goes, you're just building these stories. And then it's like, okay. And then it might come to be like, okay, these are three college stories. There's one about this pizza place. There's one about when I was in the film society. And then there was
yeah,
this third one about like my first like date, and so then like you're just constantly, and then like, okay, maybe let's try those all three. And then it's like, okay, now what can you edit? And as it goes, and maybe you try that in March of 2012, and then the next year you go back to it in like May of 2013, and you just start developing this thing, and that's one of the ones, it's an homage to my years at Keene. And the best compliments I can get is like a guy like Robin Oker's a mutual friend of ours that was an NBC
yeah,
page. Like he loved it. And like that meant the world to me because, he's someone that experienced it. And like when some of the Keene State College people, and not even people that I went to college with, even like after, that follow me on social media and stuff, like watched it, like they're like, wow, this really brought me back to a time and place. It's like bingo, you know. And my hope is like it's not even, you know, maybe you're listening to it and you're thinking about in some way, hopefully, you know, and you went to a larger school, Villanova, right? You went to
No, I
Villanova.
went to LaSalle.
LaSalle, yeah.
Probably a little bit bigger, but not much, you know. But
But
I
but if you connect to it, you know what I
yeah.
mean, in some ways, you know,
Yeah. I certainly could recognize just some similarities to my experience. I mean, we also went to school around the same time in the 90s, you know, that too. But I was also just intrigued, Adam, with how I mean, that was not a short story, you know, like you said, 15 minutes. That's not, you know, that's not an insignificant significant amount of time to be up on stage. But then, like I said, it was kind of a complex story with all these different parts to it, or even multiple stories, like you're saying. Um, how did you feel doing it? Because like you said, you know, you have this guy's cameras, you're trying to make something out of this. I feel like it's probably, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing you have one shot at this, right?
yeah. There's no two takes.
Right? Like a lot of
Um,
times, a lot of comedy specials you see, those will be like composites of two or three different shows where they get the best, you know, the best take every time and put it all together. This was
yeah,
really like this was a true live recording, right?
yeah, it was a true live recording, and you know, I think there's like a philosophy. Like my first album, The Human Comedy, like we just did one take, and then I was like, yeah, you know, I'd like to kind of, you know, do two shows the next time and see. And I think that got kind of complicated. I think it worked because you had like something extra, you know what I mean, to call back or, you know, or to try a different joke or a different story. Um, Part of the story. I don't know, just
Yeah,
it helped with the editing, so I can understand that. But I like a little pressure. I like a little pressure in getting it. And I think what I've been trying to tell myself, like with my storytelling, is that every time you tell a story, it's going to come out a little bit different, and it's supposed to.
yeah,
And just embrace that and embrace the energy of an audience and that piece of work that comes out is what it is. That's why I don't memorize. It's very bullet point. I definitely know exactly where the story is going, but that doesn't mean I have to exactly say it. And part of that gives you the energy, and, you know, improv skills as far as like the audience. Like that audience was really into it, and
yeah,
that helped. It wasn't a home audience. I mean, I probably knew two or three people in the audience, but even that, it was a very diverse audience. And age, definitely an age. There was a lot of older people, a lot of younger people, a lot of like college age or right out of college. So, you know, when you can get an audience that reacts like that, that's from 22, 21 to 22 to like 70, you know, that makes me feel really good if you could connect to that
yeah.
wider range of people.
Yeah. I mean, there's sort of a universalness to what you're doing when you can do that, to the story you're telling. I wanted to ask you about the audience too. So you're up in Beacon, New York, which is like 70, about what, 70, 75 miles north of the city.
Yeah.
So you're out there. I mean, you're upstate, technically that's upstate New York. How did it feel? Any difference compared with what a New York City audience is like performing for?
Yeah, I mean, it did get like just with COVID and stuff, I think a lot of people have moved up there from New York. So there were a lot of New Yorkers up there. But yeah, they were a little laid back. And that's why I called it Small Town Lover, because it was like, I kind
Yeah.
of, I'm, you know, it's kind of like my people, you know, I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of my people. So I almost embraced that it was, you know, I think there's this thing where we all, that have performed and performed on stage like yourself, like where if I did a special, it would be like I think it was Aziz Ansari's latest one where it's like he did it at the Comedy Cellar, but it was more like this New York vibe, McDougal Street, Bob Dylan-esque type
Yeah.
early 60s vibe. Um, but I think for me, what I loved about this one so much, Small Town Lover, was the fact that uh, it reminded me of being in Keene. I mean, that's what Keene's like, you
Yeah.
know, too. So there's kind of it had the feel of me doing shows when I did them in Keene.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at a little clip
All
from
right, sure.
The I
Now
mentioned
with all this buildup, I hope it's good.
it's hilarious actually. And you know what? Actually, before we show it, that was one of the other observations I had, Adam, that I thought this more than some of pretty much anything I've seen of yours felt the most stand-up comedy like to me. I don't know if that was intentional on your part or
No.
if you sort of see things the same way, but I'd say like more so than You Ought to Know Adam Wade, which I know was live performed, but that felt more like storytelling. Whereas this, as I was watching you, I was like, man, you kind of look like a stand-up comic there. Not that you're not a stand-up comic, but that's never been exactly what you do, you know?
No.
This one really had
Okay.
that feel to me.
All right, good. I'll
Is
take
that
it.
was that intentional though,
I'll
or
take it because it's like, it just, it's like Mike Birbiglia is a stand-up who
yeah,
also does storytelling. Chris Gethard, and they're great stand-ups, but they're not known as storyteller. And if they are, sometimes it's like, and who else is doing that, So,
yeah,
yeah, so I'll take that. I mean, I hope someone's listening.
yeah. It was great. So here, let me
And both
share.
those guys I like a lot. So I'm saying that
Yeah,
in
I
a
don't
way
know
where it's, yeah.
the second name you mentioned there, Adam. I don't know who
Yeah,
that,
you got to check them out. Yeah, Chris Gethard's great.
but I like Birbiglia. He's funny.
Yeah, me too.
All right, are you seeing that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the clip I wanted to show was what we saw James Dean in your
Oh, yes.
in the image here. So it's the little James Dean story that you tell in the middle of this bigger story.
And there was a guy that was the advisor, and his name was Bob Gunther. And Bob was famous. He was an older man. He was famous, semi-famous, for being in all three of James Dean's movies. He was in Rebel Without a Cause, East of Eden, and Giant. And when I first started part of the film, I was hearing rumblings about this, and I was like, was Bob really in these movies? They're like, whatever you do not ask Bob about James Dean. I'm like, why? They go, he gets very sensitive. Like, don't mention it. So, like the first shift, he was doing projector. I was cutting tickets. Then I get to work with him. I went right into the projection room after when the movie started. I go, Bob. So what about James Dean? And he's like, oh, and he just started for 2 hours, the whole movie, he was talking about James Dean and how much he loved him and how nice a guy he was and all this. And what I realized is like people were trying to guard me because they didn't want me to hear like 2 hours of hearing about James Dean. But I actually enjoyed it. And as the weeks and the months and the years went on, getting to work with them was amazing. And what we would do a lot of times is a lot of free time when the movie was starting. Like we would act out, and like James Dean, like in Rebel Without a Cause, there's a knife fighting scene, and Bob was the actor that gave James Dean the knife to fight. So what we would do. We would take a pen. We would take a pen and pretend it was a knife, and I'd play Bob, and he'd play James because he loved to play James Dean. So I'd be like, hey, James. He's like, what is it, Bob? And I'm like, here's your knife, And then he'd play around like Zorro, And it was awesome. So like, I don't want to brag, like it's not on my IMDb page, but I've acted with someone who's acted with James Dean. I mean, think about it. Now you can leave telling people you saw him perform.
That's great. I mean, that's so funny,
Thanks.
All right, so a
Yeah,
couple
thanks.
things I really like there too is the the use of like the imagery, right? The showing the photos of James Dean. I mean, for the people who were there live, they had to sort of imagine that. And like you're saying, I don't know, some of those young people, maybe they don't even know, like college age kids, they even know who James Dean is necessarily. Like, can they like draw? Like for me, I could pull it up, but I like that you do it in this. And that's just a funny story, funny telling of that story.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, when I was editing it, I figured, just for the audience, I think a lot of my stories are visual and why, don't overdo it, but
Yeah.
put a couple things. I think I tried to keep it minimal, but have a few,
Yeah, it was just right, like a couple of times
good.
it
Yeah.
comes up at the right times, and I thought it worked. Another thing I wanted to ask you about is the just getting back to the music, the guitar music that you did on there. Do you ever have any urge to bring a guitar back on stage with you? when you do one of these things, or is that it? Is the guitar
Well, you know
retired?
what I did? Like one of those Adam Wade from New Hampshire shows. I just did a musical show where I did it exactly how I did it. You know, I mean, literally, like I was listening to. Actually, I was digitizing a lot of the tapes, cassettes, just so I had like an audio archive of them. And it's like the Museum of Adam Wade or the
Yeah,
Library of Adam Wade.
the
But
archives. Yeah.
yeah, but I built them up and I was like, you know, so I literally did like a set where I told like little stories and played the songs. I showed some photos, showed some of the venues and some of the videos. And yeah, I personally liked it. It was like a one-off thing. Um, but I was like, all right, that's enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. I still like, I'm maybe one of the only, I don't know. I still like you doing the guitar thing every now and then,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
when you break it out. And even in this case, I really liked it. It was just like a nice, just a little accent to everything, set the tone nicely.
Yeah, and I mean the simplicity. I mean, when people listen, they don't expect it to be like
No,
Eddie Van Halen. It's very
no.
simple. It's like like really simple chords, and the way I play is like a I don't want to say Mark Knopfler, but it's
Yeah,
not
no,
like
it is good. Actually, we should
yeah,
just play it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll insert it in here so people could just hear it. Anyone who listens.
Yeah,
It just sounded good. It
it's
played
it's
it
a
played it
simple
well.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, simple is that sometimes that's all you need is simple.
Especially at the end, the ending, because what the ending is we had my brother and I probably like the year after I graduated, we drove to Keene during Christmas break, and we, driving that road, and then going to Athens, like and so it was just kind of like a nice, reentry to that place.
Adam Wade.
Any more plans for another type of show like this? Um, even if you're not recording it to make a thing, like to do another sort of like out of the city. It was almost like a road show for you, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, there's a place in Keene. There's a gentleman that I went to college with that owns a place in Keene, and he's been pushing me to go there for years. And it's one of those things where I'd like to. It's just weird when you go home. I just want to go home and be with my
Yeah.
mother and my brother. So it's kind of like I'm not going to do a show. There's also another venue in my hometown called the Rex Theater. And my former boss from the diner. Chucky was the head of that for a few years and was trying, this was right before COVID, and he was really trying to get me to go down there. And I just thought, like, I had this like Adam Wade from New Hampshire show. I wanted to take that there and do something at the Rex Theater. And like with the pandemic, I think he stopped working there. So those requests for me to perform there, like just, but like I would like to do some type of, if I were going to do a special, I think I'd like to do it in New Hampshire.
Yeah. Cool.
Like a real one, like in a small theater.
So another thing you've been up to lately as well, Adam, is Adam Wade Time, which I think I first saw it. This is how long you been doing this for? Like maybe 4 years now?
I got to do one today. Yeah, I've been doing that. Been doing it for about 2 years, and it's a shout out to a former page, Matt Yonks. Yeah. Matt Yonks was the one that pushed me to do something like this. He said, like, you're the next Andy. He goes, you're like this generation's Andy Rooney, and you should be doing these types of things. So I think you and him have given me the hardest nudge, and it's evolved, and I'm trying different. Yeah. That's like the other thing we talk about, just trying different things. I tried it the first season. Just to describe it to the audience, it's me for like a minute and a half talking about something.
Yeah.
Just nothing. Like, I mean, I don't want to say nothing, but something. And we did, the first season was just like pop culture, kind of like odd things and food. And it was more like a studio. I tried to make the apartment like a studio. And then the second season we did videos was just me at home and talking about home in New Hampshire, things about that. And that one, again, when you say blow up, it didn't blow up, but it was like people really appreciated that, especially in the hometown. I mean, Mike Winters, who was like the Little League home run champion, literally put like, I'm proud of what keep up with this. And getting that kind of compliment from that person from Manchester, New Hampshire was like awesome. So those went really well. And now I've been doing, since we were both NBC pages, it's the 90th anniversary of the NBC page program. I've been doing those. I got not as successful as far as the New Hampshire ones, but they came out pretty good. I mean, and again, it's like there might be like 20 people that are enjoying them, but like those 20 people mean something to me. You know what I mean? So,
I think it's probably more than that. I mean, you're doing it. One thing I like that you're doing is you're posting them on Twitter now, which I don't think you did.
No.
Initially. Yeah. And I think that's just a good thing to do. And I end up being on Twitter more than other places, so I see it. But yeah, like you said, this year has been all about your time as a page. And one thing about you is that you and Christian Blatt, who obviously we both, we talk to with some amount of frequency. You two, I mean, you and him are unbelievable in your archiving of that whole experience. I mean, you have like the Wade archives. I can't believe actually some of the photos that you have. And that not only that you got them in the first place, right? Because it wasn't back then, it wasn't like just whipping out an iPhone and getting a picture and it gets uploaded to the cloud, and then not losing it after all these years. Like how do you do that?
I mean, I try to stay. I've always tried to stay organized with those things. That's one, like, fortunately. And even like some of the I don't even think I did an episode, but I did a show at the Spiral Lounge where everybody came. Like, and recently I'm going to put one up when I did the Caroline's Bringer show. It was like, that was like huge, what I mean? And when I say huge, people are like, well, what do you mean you did a Bringer show? It's like, no, I had like 50% of 30 Rock at that show. I mean, there was like 300 people there. Like, and was it Lauren, was there anyone associated with entertainment? No, but like everybody else was there. You know what I mean?
The people were there. But wait, I'm talking about like this, right? Like, let me just share here real quick. Like, there you go.
Yeah.
Like, there's you, and I think that's Jimmy Vivino, right? And then I don't remember his name.
I think it's Steve the keyboardist.
Yeah. So those are from Conan's band, Conan's late night band, which was Max Weinberg, the Max Weinberg 7. Is that what it was?
Yep.
Yeah. So just the fact that you got this picture right?
Yeah.
Like Adam, like how did you know to take all these pictures back then? You know? And
Yeah, I mean, I carried around a throwaway camera all the time, our whole year there, and I kind of wish I took more photos. I mean, when you look back, I mean, and yeah, a lot of times when I finished page assignments, um, yeah, like even when we worked like in Insomnia, when I didn't work there, but like one day I worked with you and Kevin, I think, and we are moving boxes where they were moving offices. Like even that, like I have a photo of like holding like this pinata of Dave Attell.
is
You know,
that
what I mean,
right?
yeah. So I would, and even after the page program, I mean, I would drive around for Conan. I drive around the van. I'd be taking photos of that too, going to like Coney Island, going to like Jones Beach. Yeah, I don't know why, but I always did. I always wanted to document things.
Yeah, well, I mean, you did an amazing job of it. Um, because and I just showed one example, right, of Adam Wade time, but especially with the page program. I mean, frankly, with the over the summer when you did the New Hampshire stuff, you had that documented as well,
Yeah, yeah,
really well.
yeah.
And I think that's what makes these work. Um, Partly
Yeah,
is that
posting the photos with them. Yeah, I agree.
it's great
What I'd
because
like to do next, I think the next thing I'd like to do is probably take like the 20 episodes of both of those, line them up chronologically on like a Final Cut Pro, then B-roll the photos in there, and then just put that
yeah,
on like YouTube and
yeah,
have those both,
it's like
and
a
then
short film. You have a short
yeah,
film. Yeah.
yeah,
It might even be a long film. I don't know, but when you put all that together, you know.
yeah.
So that's been great. And again, I'm just amazed at the pictures you turn up. Even the one, I mean, how did you know? Just going back to that one, how did you know the that art that was hidden in Weinberg's closet? How'd you know
Yeah,
that? I never.
Mark Montgomery was the 6A desk page before me. And Mark was just a solid, I mean, he is a solid person. When you get trained like for these positions, you hope the person that's training you is not like a jerk. And not that there was a lot of jerks, but like he was just very like, all right, you need to do this, you need to do this. He trained me so well because those positions, because you were the TC, you were the ticket person,
Ticket office
like
coordinator.
yeah, ticket office. So like that, like you get a lot lot of pressure.
Yeah, yeah,
They're fun jobs because you're with all the celebrities and you're with this and that, but like you don't have to, like you have to do your job
yep,
or they'll ask you to leave. I'm sure. So there's pressure there. And um Mark, we went in because we'd always have to get Max Weinberg's ice after the show. We'd have to get, or during the show, we'd have to like leave in his dressing room, like by the sink, 2 buckets of ice. And a lot of times the commissary guy, it was Danilo, I remember his name, would come on with the little push cart and he'd have the 2 things of ice. And we just go put him, he'd be like, I'm here, and I'd run in, we'd put the ice there and we'd leave. So one day, like when Mark was training me, trained me for like a couple of days. When we went in, he's like, wait till I show you this. And he's like, open it. I'm like, we shouldn't be opening the closet. He's like, don't. We open the closet, and inside it was Jim Henson had, when he was like, before he was Jim Henson, but he was still, when he was younger, he painted all these pipes and he said hello from the Muppets or something like that. But it said from the Muppets. And it was this beautiful thing. And uh it was beautiful. It was like Raiders of the Lost Ark, like when they lift the thing, it was like this beauty. Yeah, and okay, you might be looking at it now. Oh my, really? Look at that! Like that. There's
yeah.
like history there for me in my life, and like the Muppet Show, and everything he did. And I recently read his book, and then I listened to it on Audible, his biography. Jim Henson's been so influential to me in my life, both creativity wise and storytelling. So I would go after shifts. I'd wait till everybody left, including Conan. Conan was always like the last one to leave. Talk about guitar. He would play his guitar after his postmortem, after the postmortem meeting after his show, and then everybody would leave, and then he'd play the guitar for about a half hour, and then he'd leave. and I just kind of walk up things, move the desk and this and that, and then I go into Max's room. Max was gone, usually gone early, and I would just go in there and I just open up that closet and just sit there and look at the pipes. It was just really really cool. It was magical. Yeah,
Yeah.
had a huge influence on me.
I had no idea that was there until I saw you, post
Yeah,
about it in Adam Wade time. And I feel like I know a
yeah,
lot of what's going on in that area because I spend a lot of time down there.
yeah.
Really cool. I mean, so, talking about the Page program, it's been 90 years now that that program has been around. I guess this past November was the 90th anniversary, November 2023. And, you know, it's obviously a program that is just filled with history, right? But you have captured a good amount of that history in just what, 1 year? The 1 year you were there, you got
Yeah.
a lot of good, just sort of like
Oh, we had the
anecdotes.
Millennium. You worked the Millennium, right? I mean, we worked the
Yes,
Millennium.
I did work that one.
Where were you? You know, people at like, where were you? Y2K. We were at Studio
Eight
8H
H.
with like
Yeah,
Sting and Andre Botticelli, and I mean, you know, it was that was like awesome. That was like an awesome experience.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
um,
It was amazing. So do you have pictures from that night too? You
yeah.
really? God,
Yeah.
you
Not of like Sting and stuff, but I have us like dancing on the dancing and
on the
yeah,
stage basically, right? We
yeah,
were
yeah, yeah,
stage.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
wild. See, it's amazing you did all that, Adam. Because I didn't take I have so few pictures. In fact, some of the pictures that I have are what you've sent me and what Christian has sent me. I don't
Yeah,
have
because
very
with that
many.
show, and this isn't in any of my stories or anything, but like, we had a plus one. We had someone we could take, and who I invited, and I told him he had to wear a tuxedo, was a gentleman that trained me as a waiter at Virgil's Barbecue, and his name was Patrick Lennon. He was one of the nicest guys when I first moved here. Just always giving me confidence, and he got to go to that concert, and he was having such a good time. So I just remember things that I remember from that night. I remember him in his like tuxedo. He rented a tuxedo for it. You know, it was like the day of, or maybe he
Yeah,
borrowed a tuxedo. It was like slightly like too big or too small. I can't
yeah.
remember. But he was just so happy. And it was like,
Oh, I'm sure.
I did something nice for Pat, you know what I mean? So I was like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's cool. Um, and you've been spending a lot of time, in addition to all the projects you have going on, teaching, not just
Yep.
at the Magnet Theater, but I guess what's it been, about 3 years now that you've been teaching at the Museum of Natural History in New York City.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
that's an interesting thing. What is it about teaching there? Well, first of all, how did you get into that? And what are they looking for? You're teaching employees of theirs?
Yeah,
Is that what's
yeah.
going on?
Yeah, well, I've been teaching at a theater called the Magnet Theater for 14 years now. I love it, and I still love it. The people I get to work with and work for are just wonderful, wonderful people with big hearts. And what happened, Andrew, is in teaching these classes, you never know who's taking these classes. And what's happening is over the years, many students that take the class that like the class and get a lot out of the class will tell their employees like you should bring this guy in. So
Ah,
I've been getting additional work. And during the pandemic, I had I want to not an astrologist. I
astronomer.
was astronomer.
Yeah.
Good, good. That's what I was waiting for. Astronomer, who is just unbelievable person, and was just a natural storyteller. And she worked, I believe, at Columbia and at the Museum of Natural History, American Museum of Natural History in Manhattan. And they were doing this new type of project where they're teaching improv, teaching stand up, and teaching storytelling to graduates and postgraduates, or I mean, whatever, postgraduates and scientists of all types at the museum that are affiliated with the museum. And they approached me to teach and a couple weeks there, and then do a solo, not a solo show, but like a show at one of the many theaters at the museum for friends and family and staff. And we've been doing. I finished my third semester this month. The people I work for with that, her name is Eve Armstrong. She's unbelievable. Um, she's a scientist herself, and I love it. And she,
Yeah.
you know, she's very artistic, very talented, multiply talented, and yeah, I just the science. So what I'm doing there is to help scientists get better at storytelling and get better at public speaking, and also help them realize that their voice, like what they have to offer is very important, and to really embrace themselves and their work, the people that they admire, their mentors, and their family. And it's been wonderful. It's been a
Yeah.
really wonderful experience.
And how are they with that? Because I feel like for scientists, that may not be, that might be outside of their comfort zone to some degree.
Oh, it's definitely outside many of their comfort zone. But I give them all, like the 3 sessions that I've taught there. I'm so impressed with the ability of them to try,
Mhm.
and they've all every single one there has improved. And the reason why they've improved is because they've pushed themselves out of their comfort zone, and they've tried. For me, like it's like, I think the greatest storyteller, they're getting there. I mean, they're actually very good. Many of them are very good, and I think it's helped them in their, and will help them in their future presentations. When there's a lot of numbers and stuff like statistics involved, and data, that they can make it into a story,
Yeah.
and they're just really, again, emotional. It's just really like good people. Like I leave those and I just feel, especially the shows, I feel so good.
Yeah. And are they, what's the age range of the people you're working with? Like, are you getting younger folks or older folks?
A little wide range, a little
Yeah.
wide range. Yeah, because we've had different people. I mean, like I said, many maybe like 20s and 30s, but we've definitely had like 40s and 50s too. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you give them like a final exam, Adam? Are you like,
It's funny I say that. Well, if they get to the class show, I say you got A pluses, and
yeah,
I always like, if you like, there's no time, you've passed. So now, like, enjoy the class show. The class show is
I
not a
think
test. It's
the,
it's a celebration of your hard work.
right, but it sort of is a final. Like they get up and tell a story, right? Are
Yeah.
they doing a full, how long of a story are they telling there?
Probably like 8 to 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
pretty good story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all, I mean this, they've all been like very impactful stories. They're
Yeah.
just so smart, and just, yeah, they're like really nice, really
Yeah.
nice. And some of them deal with science, some of them don't. Some of them, I remember one person had a story about like the restaurant and the family of the restaurant she worked at in college, and how meaningful it was to her. And so when we say mentors, they're not all doing Einstein. You know what I mean? They're doing people. They really get it. They really get it. And
Yeah.
the other thing is with the classes, they're helping each other. We open it to feedback from each other. So their openness just to get better and to listen and use what works best for them.
Yeah.
Um,
So when they start a session, like when you start a semester, how many classes are we talking about? Like what's their journey like? They're starting
yeah,
up.
like 3 to 4, like 3 to 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Um, and I wonder too, um, just in what I've done with you, Adam, like, in an informal setting, like we're talking about at the beginning in the Ganache Cafe, I kind of always felt like you helped me sort of see the science of telling a story in a way, like, and I guess, do they appreciate that? Are you showing them it's sort of just like some of the things that you need to do or think about when you're approaching these stories? Like,
Absolutely.
I think like I remember you telling me at one point, like to really take a look at what you've got here and say like, what is the story actually about? Is
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that is that kind of what you tell them too? Like,
Yeah.
what is the story about?
Well, we were talking about Tina Brown before, and the vomit draft. I think at that time where you're putting things out there, you're not exactly sure. You're not exactly sure.
Yeah.
And I think as far as, and that's where creativity really counts, where it's like you're putting it out there, you're writing about something, you're talking about something that it has some meaning to you, because you should have some type of meaning or connection to the thing you're talking about. And then once you get it out there, if you have a couple moments, or you have a couple scenes, or you have some dialogue, like looking at it, maybe I always say lay it out as chronological as possible, especially at first, and then say like, what am I trying to say here? And that can change as well. But at least right now, at this point, as early as it is, this vomit draft, like what am I trying to say here? What is the point?
Yeah.
Like the Helen Bonham Carter, like what is it about? Like, I mean, and you can go in different directions and you can have different versions of it, but is it more about how um like Josh's reaction, it's not a big deal. Maybe it's your friendship. Maybe it could be about your friendship with Josh, Josh Payne. Maybe it could be about um, just the fact that you get tricked by this just an interesting faux celebrity
Yeah.
story, or maybe it's about like um, maybe it's about you and Gallus just hanging out and just something crazy that happened.
Yeah.
One of the adventures of Gallus and Tavani. So, but there's just different ways you can look at it. And there's no right or wrong way. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of students get like, oh, I did it wrong. No, I mean, how do you know you did it wrong?
Yeah. So there's no science per se, but I feel like there is a process though, right? You have
Yeah,
a process to it that
yeah,
that I think that people don't maybe people don't know about or think about until until someone like you comes along and gives a little guidance on that, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Always there to help.
And are you doing another semester then next coming up?
Hopefully, fingers
Yeah.
crossed, because I love working
Yeah.
there, and I love getting to work with Eve. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, it's awesome. I really take a lot of pride getting to go there and do that. It's
Yeah.
something that it's extremely meaningful to
I
me
mean
personally.
that museum is magnificent, just
It really
as a
is.
place to visit, right? Like the
Well,
all
it's like, I
the
mean,
things.
that's the thing. I mean, every time I go in, I go see the whale.
Yeah, the
it's
dinosaurs. They got a
amazing.
great dinosaur
Yeah, the
bar.
dinosaurs. Yeah.
And it's great. And I guess too. So, are you using when they perform their class show? Are they using one of those little venues? One that you said the theater is in there, right? Those are all
Yeah,
pretty big too.
there's small theaters in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are a nice venue to do one of those, right?
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And they have like and this, they have like union workers doing the lights and everything. I mean, so it's like a legit,
yeah. It's like a real
yeah,
show, right?
it's a
Yeah,
real stage. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's great. So to switch gears here, Adam, one thing I wanted to talk about, actually, the first time you were on for the first episode, like I mentioned, I had just not just, but had recently listened to your book, um, You Ought to Know Adam Wade, the Audible book, and
Free if you're an Audible subscriber.
free if you're an Audible subscriber. But yeah, can you still listen to it if you're not an Audible subscriber? Yeah,
Correct. Yes.
yeah,
It's on the what is it? The Audible Plus catalog. Yeah.
yeah. Which is it's so great. I was actually, Adam, what's funny? I was talking to some colleagues of mine recently, and I was telling them about the book, and I was like, you got to actually just listen to this book, just get it, download it, and listen to it, because it's so good. It's funny and poignant, heartfelt, all of those things. But the last time you were on, I asked you, one of the things that struck me in it was, you talking about your dad, and I know that you lost your dad this year, and I'm very sorry about that. And I know how hard that is, and it sucks. But I wanted to ask you, because I brought him up, and he was sort of such a seminal character in the book. I wanted to ask you about like what you what you have felt, and did you feel like that getting that down in the book so that he could hear some of like what he meant to you was important? I feel like you never know what's going to happen, right? And when you did that book, right, obviously your parents aren't going to be around forever, but is there anything that you felt was important about getting that down, and especially now that he's gone, like what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah. There was a time when he passed and we had his phone, and I went into his Audible just to look at what the books that he had. Uh, and that was like towards the top. And it was something my mom said like he listened to often.
Yeah.
And it's not something like he talked about a lot, but to see that it was like close up top and uh, yeah, it meant a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I remember one of the stories that you told in there is, I think it's chapter 2, Swing the Bat. And it's all about this, your father, first of all, you struggling with baseball and not going up and swing the bat, and your dad like saying, we're gonna get him to swing the bat, and him working with you and everything. And for me, that story touched me for a number of reasons. I'm a big baseball fan, and
Yeah.
with
And
my
then
own kids.
coach and your kids, yeah.
Yeah, with my own kids, I'm very involved in their baseball activities and whatnot. But but also just like the nature of like a dad trying to help his kid with baseball, which I feel like is a very like just sort of an American, like especially in our time, like our dads may not have had the time, but they tried to make some time to do that, and
Yeah.
and that was such a nice touching aspect of that story. And then I don't want to ruin the story for people have probably heard it, but it has such a funny ending actually, but also like a very poignant ending to that story. What do you think about that, and what do you think about um, like sort of the relationship between a dad and a young kid? Because I forget how old you said you were, but I want to say you were like 9 at that point,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
your birthday too. Maybe it was your 10th birthday. Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you're spending a lot of time working on these things, like, whether it's storytelling or it's performing. So to be able to produce something um, that is so personal, uh, that other people like yourself can connect to on that level, uh, you maybe have made something that could stand the test of time. And not that, and not even that you want everything to do that, but
Yeah.
like something like that. And when it is something that has to deal with someone that you love so much, like your father, who is extremely good to you, um, that's like a bar of gold for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
When we nonstop, and I'm sure on this podcast and in life and conversations, um, we talk about what is success, um, how do you rate success? That's success for me.
That's interesting, Adam. That's a nice way to think about it too. I think a lot of people don't actually think of success in a much more um, you know, measurable way, or like even just like a money way, money
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
awards or whatever.
Hmm.
And you certainly have won your share of things. So it's interesting to hear you describe it that way.
Yeah.
um, and your family, thinking back to your book and just your storytelling. Your family is many of your family members are very central in your storytelling. In fact, one thing I noticed, Adam, in your special, Small Town Lover, I think the production company had had the name
The
Aridi.
production company, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Well, I mean, it is to some
yeah,
degree.
yeah.
That was named after your Aunt Aridi, right? Am I
Yep,
saying her
yep,
name right?
yep, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Despo's my grandmother and Ariti's my
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So they're so central to your story, to many of your stories, not all of them.
Yes, yeah.
But
My
I'm
first
curious.
audience, my first audience.
Yeah, that's interesting. And your mom, how's your mom think about all this? You know, she comes up in the book too. I didn't mean to, for
Yeah,
whatever
yeah, yeah, no,
I,
yeah.
had latched onto your father and sort of his role in the book, but your mom is in there too. How does she feel about all the about being in the stories?
Yeah, I think she feels really good. I mean, there's a
Yeah,
story I did for the PBS show, Stories from the Sage, and it's more of they edited it, but it's kind of a heavy story, and about her and her love, similar to the Swing the Bat story. You know, hey, they made a huge impact on me, and I always say to people, I was very, very fortunate. I mean, I got a lot of love from my family and a lot of support, and um, you know, you're not doing everything in your life to please your parents or make them proud, but you try to be, you try,
yeah.
you try, you try, but I was very, very fortunate, um, to have both of them as parents, and I have a older brother who I don't tell a lot of stories about. He should get his own special. But yeah, I'm just extremely fortunate to have grow up with the three of them.
Whatever your parents did, Adam, they did well raising you.
Yeah,
Because
thanks.
you're always
You too.
frankly, forget all the like you're funny and you're a great storyteller, but you've always been a really stand-up guy too. I will say like
Well, we've
just go,
known each other a long time.
yeah,
So
just but
I
just
think
going
that,
back to like even when we were pages, like I always thought you were so nice to like sort of the people there who were overlooked, like security guards, the crew members who were just not, not the biggest folks in the thing, in part of a production. Um,
well, the highlight of I'll tell you right now, we talk about NBC. When you say what was probably like the pinnacle, there was a gentleman, and I might have stated this on your other podcast, so I apologize if I'm repeating stories, but there's a guy named John Homer who was a Vietnam vet who was a stagehand. He was a little guy. They used to call him the Hammer. He's a little guy that worked at Conan O'Brien, and he did a lot of work for SNL. And so on Thursdays and Fridays, he was doing those double shifts.
yeah,
Um, and just a really, really true gentleman. And I just hit it off with him really, really well. And when I was done the page program, he used to call me the nail. So it was like the hammer and the nail, the hammer and the nail. And I just really got along with him really well. And what a hard worker. I mean, this guy was always busting his ass. And when the page program was over, I used to drive the van for Jason Chalemi at Conan when they do remotes. I would drive, I'd pick up the van by Port Authority. I'm sure you've done this
yeah,
pick up a
over at
van, you pick them up.
Courier
Yeah,
Reynolds.
courier. And then drive around, drive them around, drop them off. And John Homer was all because he loved Chalemi and Chalemi loved him. He was always like the stagehand on those things. So, he'd bring a couple of the props, he'd bring the boxes, and just again, and one day we were driving around and there's like a bunch of actors, there's a bunch of writers for Conan, and then Jason and John Homer, and I said something, I made some type of statement, and they all laughed, and John said, someday we're all going to be working for that guy. I mean, that was like someone like that with his background and the type of person he was, the work ethic, Vietnam vet, and
Yeah,
him saying that about me. Uh, I mean that was might have been the pinnacle of my time at NBC.
yeah. And that was while you were at Page still or after?
No, right after,
Right after. Yeah,
yeah,
you
yeah,
continue working
yeah.
for Conan, right?
Yep, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a nice story, Adam.
yeah.
Um, and I
I
wonder
mean,
what,
when someone like that thinks that of you, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like your compliment. I mean, I take it really personally. I mean, I've known you 20 almost 24 years. Yeah, 24 years now.
yeah.
And we've been through a lot. And for you to say that,
Oh yeah. Well, I would hope that you know that already anyway.
yeah, and yeah.
But yeah. Um, well, Adam, it's been great talking to you as always, and good to see your face.
Yeah, you too.
So let's just talk really quick about where so I'll put a link into Small Town Lover, but people should
Sure.
follow you on Twitter, right?
Yep.
But you're also elsewhere, right? You're Facebook, obviously.
Yeah, Facebook, the fan page, it's facebook.com, I think, / Adam Wade Storyteller. And then it's the Instagram is Adam Wade Storyteller too. And then
Instagram.
and there's links on Instagram for Adam Wade Time and
Yeah.
Adam Wade Live in New York City and stuff. So
And are you on TikTok?
yeah, but I think it's Adam Wade from New Hampshire. Adam Wade, New Hampshire. I Tom Kelly, who's a
I know.
mutual friend of ours, he's nailed TikTok. I go back and forth. It's like I'm doing fine, and then I'm not getting any. I like some of the social media. It's depressing when like there's nobody. I mean, they let you know when no one's listening or watching. So it's like, Jesus,
Yeah.
throw me a bone here.
I can't deal with TikTok. At least not right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to make about it. But all right, so there's all those things. There's Small Town Lovers there on YouTube for everyone to see. And the play. Best of luck with the play coming forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Is,
thank you.
Going forward, that is going to be
my dream is just to have, if it's a high school, if it's a college, someone presenting it. You know what I mean? That's my major goal is
and
just
what do
to
you want
have
to do?
something.
You want to direct it? Is that what you want to do too?
I just want to sit in the audience and watch it.
Watch it.
I just want someone to do it. I mean, yes, of course, I'd love to have some creative aspect in it, but if someone just wants to just put it on, and that would be great. That's the dream. That's the dream with that, and I think it's a goal that's achievable.
And hopefully by spring, people can come and see it. We'll see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, this was great. Did I forget to ask you anything, Adam?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. All right,
You're good. You did a great job. You did a great job as always.
Well, it's just fun. It's always fun talking to you, Adam. And come back again. We'll do this again sometime, right?
So any time for you.
Thanks, Adam. It was great talking to you. All right.
Yeah, you too. Take care, Adam.